Welcome everybody. Good evening. Looks like the number of participants is slowing down, so I think just about everybody we're expecting is here. I want to welcome you all to demo day or demo evening for CodeU, and basically just tell you a little bit about what this event is going to be, what to expect, and how to work, and then we'll jump right in. This will move pretty quick tonight. But basically, for just a little background about the program, just in case this is anyone's first exposure. So CodeU is the name we have for our family of programs here, which consists of Code Louisville, Code Kentucky, and then Empower Up. So these are all tech training programs that are brought to the community originally in Louisville and has since expanded to a large portion of Kentucky and small portions of Southern Indiana and Southern Ohio. And basically, we're here to get folks trained up and help them find their career in technology. And so the event tonight is a night for some of our folks to present their projects that they completed. As part of the program, they go through a variety of material, including online recordings and classes that are held online with our mentor community. There's projects that they develop for their portfolio, workshops that they go to about both professional and soft topics, and a variety of other things. And we recently finished a class in December, and all of our presenters tonight completed one of those pathways that was offered. And basically what we'll do tonight is we're going to take about 5 minutes per presentation, give or take a minute. They're going to tell you about what they did, why they chose that project, things of that nature, and kind of show it off to you. Tonight, we're going to ask that you hold your questions until afterward, so we can move through the projects pretty much one after the other. And what we're going to do after the 7 presenters are done tonight, we're going to open up breakout rooms with one room for each presenter, and we have it set so you all will be able to join those rooms as you see fit. So the idea is we'll watch all these presentations back to back, 7 of them, and then after that's over, you'll have a chance to jump into a room and learn more about the project or them as an individual, ask questions, whatever the case may be. This is, if you've ever been to some of these demo days in person and stuff like that, usually there's like booths set up or tables around the edge of the room or something like that. This is just kind of our virtual version of that. Without further ado, I'd like to go ahead and jump into our first presentation tonight. So we are joined tonight by Ryan Cornett. He's joining us from Manchester in Pike County, Kentucky. And Ryan recently completed the software development pathway, which is focuses on C#. And without further ado, Ryan, go ahead and take it away for tonight.
Thank you. Thank you. Right. I'm Ryan, and I came into coding, programming with CodeU as a complete newbie and never done anything. I saw an ad on Facebook. I remember it was one Tuesday, and said CodeU could help me and help folks like me who had zero experience. And so I signed up, and I'm glad I did. And as Brian said, I was in the software development pathway, learning C#, and I chose the project, the capstone project I did, because our mentors encouraged us to choose something and build something we're passionate about. And for me, that's foraging wild foods, particularly in Kentucky. And so I built Foraging Kentucky on .NET 7 with Entity Framework Core. It's a Blazor server app, and that's my capstone project. And let's see, let me show. Go. And this index page is simply made so that things will be easier for the mentors and those who graded the project. And so with Foraging Kentucky, users can learn all about wild foods that grow and are readily available. in the state of Kentucky. I didn't set up authentication and authorization, but I did set up rudimentary user accounts. Users can um, basically, change their information, but the main thing is a user can save wild foods. And so Aowen here has saved pawpaw, oyster mushroom, and wood sorrel. So let's take a closer look at wood sorrel. This is the part of the project later on I did implement with API. I didn't have a chance to build it all that way. Some of the data transfer is directly from uh, the database using the repository pattern. But this part comes from the API in order to get a little bit quicker data transfer. And so let's go back to wild foods, and let's say someone wants to filter by fruit, and we see that the fruit that needs to be there that's not. So we're going to add a new food, and we'll let Aowen add this persimmon. There we go. And persimmons are edible raw. So we added it, and we'll go look by recently added, and there it is. There's our persimmon. And so in addition to the relational data with the user being able to save foods, there's some relational data with recipes. So the wild food like black walnut is related to the user who created this recipe for banana nut bread. And here are just a few snippets of some of the code. I really struggled with the database, spinning that up and working with the object relational mapping. That was very new to me. Also, brand new was full stack portion, but I wanted to learn that, and I'm glad I did. But components were new to me, and having components talk to each other and having them change based on other components, that was brand new for me. But it was a challenge that I'm really glad I took on, and that's what I've learned and gained through this is that I really love the challenge, and the struggle in programming is something that I really enjoy actually. Maybe surprisingly, but I do. But I really gained a lot of knowledge for using services, dependency injection, data manipulation, and using external resources like Bootstrap or Razor components. And here's some information and a couple websites that I've deployed that you can look at for other examples of my work. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Ryan. And just as a quick follow-up for everybody listening, if you signed up for the event through one of the forms we sent out, we'll be sending everyone's contact information to you later this week. But if you did not sign up and you want to get that information, feel free to either reach out to me or Shannon Sheehy or somebody on the CodeView team. Or if you really need to, you can just post in the Zoom chat here and we'll make sure you get added to the list before the night's over. So next up, we are joined by Christina Smith. She is joining us from Florence, Kentucky, in what we consider the Northern Kentucky region. And she's here to talk about her park feed game. So take it away.
Thank you so much, Brian. And thanks everybody for coming today. My name is Christina Smith. I just completed the web development pathway. However, in the past, I have completed the software development pathway as well. I initially reached out to GoDaddy and applied because I really enjoy programming in C++ for my hobby Arduino builds, and I wanted to see if it was a viable career change, something that I would enjoy. Needless to say, Codu has inspired a lot of confidence in myself for this pathway because I am 50% of the way through my computer science degree. And I don't think I would have been brave enough to go down this path if it weren't for CodeU inspiring me to learn and find out if this was right for me. So I created for my capstone project Parklopedia. Parklopedia is a web application that allows you to search for the information you would need to visit a park that's maintained by the National Park Service. And I decided to create it because learning to work with more complex third-party APIs and kind of figuring out how to work with the JSON and the data structures that are associated with those seemed really important and something I was having a little bit of a difficult time tackling. So I decided to dive right in with that. Also, I'd read quite a bit about how presenting a large amount of information to your user while keeping it approachable is a challenge in and of itself. So I, of course, wanted to see if it was possible for me to tackle that head on. So if you load into Parklopedia, you'll find on the landing page the opportunity to watch the narrated promo video I created for it. It gives you an overview of what to expect Parklopedia to be able to do, and then step-by-step instructions if you need them. However, most of the landing page kind of pushes you towards making that first search yourself. So when we do get to our search page and we're ready to search, there's a search box, which I'm sure we're all familiar with. You start putting in characters and it matches those characters to an array of US states. So as you add or remove characters, the suggestions box below the search button is updated in real time so that you can narrow down those suggestions and select the one that you're interested in. So you select from the list and press search. And then after you press search, these buttons are dynamically generated. So basically, they're created on the spot in HTML. Um, and they give you every single park that is at least partially in the state you searched for. What you can't see attached to these buttons is a 16-character park-specific ID that's assigned by the National Park Service. And so when you select one of these particular parks, that ID is saved to your browser's session storage. That's important because when we click on one of those buttons, we load a park information specific page. So it's specific to that particular park. And we make 3 automatic API calls. So basically 3 automatic requests for information. The first uses that ID to basically reach out to the National Park Service and get some basics. Images that are approved by the National Park Service, a park description, entrance fees, things of that nature. And while it isn't displayed, it also grabs the latitude and longitude of that park. Because our second automatic API call, our second request for information, is to a weather API service. And we use the latitude and longitude so that we can grab an accurate and up-to-date 4-day forecast. And I use 2 specific functions in order to take the weather that forecast that we were given and for each day find the correct icon to represent that weather, as well as the correct status is what I ended up calling it, but it's a descriptor of that weather. So 30 degrees and misty might not be the best day to take a hike on the side of Mount Rainier. Last but certainly not least is the alerts section. That alerts request is made, and once that information has been retrieved, we need to filter it down. A lot of national parks have alerts that go back way before 2017. So I filter it down to those that were created or updated in the last 90 days, so that only those that are still relevant or still possibly relevant are displayed. I then color code them based on severity, just so you can figure out if it is like a trip ending alert or a minor inconvenience of a road closure. There are a lot of other moving parts in the background of Parklopedia. So if you have questions, comments, suggestions even, feel free to stop by my breakout room after the presentations. I'd be more than happy to provide you a link to the promo video or answer any questions you may have. If you don't have time for that today, this is where you can find me basically. I also would really love it if anybody has the time, if you'd like to check out View from Mars. It's another project I'm currently working on that I'm really enjoying. It uses the NASA Mars Rover API to provide up-to-date information and images from the Curiosity and Perseverance rovers on Mars. Otherwise, thank you so much for making the time to be here today, and thank you for learning about Parklopedia.
All right. Thank you so much, Christina. So next, we are going to be joined by Shamia Allen. So Shamia recently took part in the Empower Up program, which focuses on data analytics and specifically using Power BI as a tool. And that class worked a little bit different from our other classes. So the projects you've seen tonight are projects that Code Louisville and Code Kentucky students pick for themselves. Shamia's class, everybody did a project for a real world client, Care Mobile in this case, which she's going to tell you more about. So yeah, Shamia, tell us about your Care Mobile data dashboard.
Thanks, Brian. Second. All right. So, as Ryan said, my name is Shamia. I'll be 24 soon. I'm residing in Louisville, Kentucky, and I'm a graduate of the Empower Up program. So, I was first interested in this program because I currently am a program manager for a nonprofit that brings the interests of tech to underserved and underrepresented communities. And I know that impact reports are a very important part of nonprofits. So I wanted to expand my knowledge in this area. So our client is Care Mobile. And so Care Mobile is a dental service organization focused on innovation in a direct-to-consumer oral care delivery model. Their mission is to provide accessible oral health care for ensuring reliable care for all. So during the program, we were guided to gathering all of the data from the clients, cleaning the data, organizing the data with trends, learning and applying a new coding language, which is called DAX, creating a story based on the data presented, and creating visuals based on that story. So the most challenging part for me was learning a new coding language. While I do have experience with HTML, CSS, and Python, learning a new syntax for data purposes took me out of my comfort zone, but it also kept me in it because I did know a few, I knew the whole process of coding. As you can see on the screen, this is all of the data that was collected from our clients. So they visit a total of 5 cities collecting data. A few of the questions included the age, the gender, how many times the patient goes to the dentist a year, brushing frequency, things of that nature. Here is an example of a coding of a DAX formula that I used for a total screenings to get a distinct count of the patients for my story. Here is a star schema. So a star schema is a data analytics, and data analytics organizes information like a star with a central fact table, which is the total screenings right here, containing core metrics and surrounding dimension tables, like the dental history, the specific data, specific patient, the location, and the date. Here is my dashboard. And so since, as Brian said, we did all work from the same data set, so we had to come up with our own story. So the stat that stood out the most to me was the chart that was labeled under the age of 18. As you can see right here, youth patients were well over a quarter of the total screenings. With that being said, I wanted to test the hypothesis to explore if the decline in dental hygiene is the discontinuation of adults from their parents' healthcare insurance, leading to reduced access to dental healthcare. While my hypothesis was not supported by this data, I was able to recommend how the client could get closer to coming to a solution for my hypothesis. A few of my recommendations were to create more demographic data, go to more cities that experience dental deserts. That is all. If you have any questions, you can join my breakout room. Here is my email, and here's a QR code to my LinkedIn. Thank you.
All right, excellent. Thanks so much, Mia.
No problem.
All right, next up, we are joined by Jack Satanurak-Wong, and I hope I got that right. Jack is joining us from Florence, Kentucky, and he recently completed the data analytics and Python pathway with us. So, Jack, floor is yours.
Thank you, Brian. Good evening. My name is Jack. I have a Master of Science in Information Technology. I have 4 years of experience as a web developer. I used to work with front end and back end. Before we start, I would like to thank CodeU for allowing me to start in the data analysis role. Now, you might wonder why I'm venturing into data analysis. Well, I've come to appreciate data's important role in decision making and its power to shape future success. This realization has motivated me to shift my career to data analyst. Web scraping and data visualization. Unlike the long and numbing process of manually getting data, web scraping use intelligent method to get thousands or even like millions of data sets in a small amount of time. To show you how it works, I use this project to scrape the data from IMDb and Rotten Tomato website, and using Bokeh for creating interactive data visualization on a web-based platform. What is Bokeh? Bokeh is a Python library that is used to make highly interactive graph and visualization. This is done in Bokeh using HTML and JavaScript. This makes it a powerful tool for creating projects. Why this project? This project begins with a simple question. Can the release date of a movie have an impact of the number of people who end up watching it? In this project, I faced various challenges, but the one I want to highlight is the HTTP error code 403. What does 403 mean? 403 is a status code that indicates the server understood the request, but it refused to authorize it. Because at that time, the server failed. I was a robot. To tackle that 403 error, I've come up with a solution. I include a header in my request as a friendly introduction to the server. It helps the server see me as a, like more human and around the exit. All right, let's get back to the question. Does the timing of movie release actually affect how many people watch it? I noticed that on January 12, 2024, there were several movie release, and it seemed to be popular day for moviegoers. After looking into it, here what I found is the second Friday after a long holiday period, includes Christmas and New Year. People might be relaxed and up for watching movies. Also, January 15 is a Martin Luther King Day, which means no school. A lot of family probably have more time, more free time, making it a good day for movie outing. The next step of the project, I'm going to set up a job to gather accurate data from the website every week. Once I've got enough data, I plan to use a Power BI tool to predict which date of the next month will be the most movie release date. I believe that this predictive date helps filmmaker determine optimal release strategy for their movie. Again, my name is Jack, and you can scan the QR code to add my LinkedIn. I look forward to seeing you in the break room. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Jack. We have 3 more to go. So next up, we'll introduce to you Jody Mullins. Jody is joining us from Hazard, Kentucky, and just recently completed the data analytics pathway. So Jody, if you're ready, take it away.
Thank you, Brian. Good evening, everyone. My name is Jody Mullins. I live in Hazard, Kentucky in the Eastern region. I joined CodeU while searching for a way to expand upon the knowledge I gained from a 6-week Python introduction course. Though with Stanford's Code in Place program I participated in last May, and my original goals were to be able to advance what I'm capable of doing with spreadsheets, as well as land a remote position with a wonderful company. But that's really just the tip of the iceberg now, as I dive into web development in another session of CodeU, as well as AWS certification on the side. And so to showcase all of the tools that I picked up on during this session of CodeU, I decided to hand design my project down to the last data point using mock data. It is titled Kicks Quest because it follows an entrepreneur that asks a lot of questions about their shoe business. And so it is a small business.
Hey Jody, I'm sorry to interrupt, but you're not sharing your screen currently.
I apologize. Excuse me. Sorry, my Zoom disappeared on me. Here we go.
There we go. Now we see it.
Perfect. Okay, so this is the screen we're on. Excuse me, sorry. It's Kicks Quest that follows a small business. The majority of the data that I look at and analyze is to discover where would be the best location to put a storefront in the future. And our main cells are primarily just plain white shoes that the entrepreneur hand paints designs. And then there's a bit of a niche market as well that are shoe charms that I call adornments throughout the code. And so the majority of my project uses Python to do the heavy lifting. On one side, we can see there's a script here where I create my database and it automatically populates with one click from the data that I have available. And then on the other side of the screen, I can create folders, and there's a little demo available as well, where I can save the output, my charts, and any data that I analyze into folders for the entrepreneur to view later at their convenience. And to work with the database, I did have the pleasure of creating my own SQL queries, which we can see here. And so on one side of the screen, I designed a query that is based to pull October birthdays before a certain year, and they would be sent a certain kind of email and gift card. And then on the other hand is a separate query, and it also pulls October birthdays, except these are birthdays after a certain year, and they would get a different kind of gift card. And to deep dive into the numbers, so for instance, if I didn't want to look at the whole business, I just wanted to see, are the shoe charms profitable? Should I continue selling them? I can do that. And again, those are called adornments throughout the code. And I can see a total profit for them and which state that comes from. And then using the Python matplotlib library, I can translate that information into visualizations such as the pie chart that we see. And it shows, as far as shoe charms, I make a really big profit in California, maybe not so much in Florida. Maybe in Florida, I want to look at my advertising or simply raise my prices. However, if I wanted to look at my entire market, not just the shoe charms, but is my entire business profitable? Is it something I want to continue doing? And if so, where would I want to put a storefront? Of course, I can do that as well. I can use the Python pandas library to create an average profit chart. So we can see that over the course of 3 years, Georgia was a very profitable state for me. And then over the course of 3 years for the entire business, Minnesota, Florida, and California were still strong contenders as well. To finish my project, I established an interactive Tableau dashboard, which I give a very quick demo of here, just to click through. And my golden states are where I'm going to have the most profit. Blue states may be lesser profit, but of course, states with no color mean I'm not making any sales and there's no profit there. And then the conclusion of my Tableau dashboard does show down to the zip code where I experience a lot of sales and a lot of profit. And we can see that while California may have a fairly strong business for me, that I would most likely want to put a storefront in the Southeast in the future due to the number of sales and general profit available there. And that is my entire project. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a wonderful evening.
All right. Thank you so much, Jody. Well done. So next up, we are joined by Brian Conley. Brian is here in the Louisville region and just recently also completed the data analytics pathway. So Brian, whenever you're ready, the floor is yours.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Brian Conley from Louisville, Kentucky, and it is my pleasure and honor to be able to present to you my CodeU capstone project, Nexicast. The reason I decided to enroll in CodeU, I have a background in programming and graphic design, but I wanted to learn a more robust programming language. So there's a software development course with C# paired with a classroom setting where you had instructors who are very knowledgeable on the subject matter and available if you have any questions, concerns, or roadblocks was very appealing to me. So my project is Nexicast. It is an automated YouTube video generator. I chose to do this particular project because I didn't want to do one of the types of projects that you've seen done 100 times on GitHub. I wanted something that was unique and captivating, interesting to me on a personal level. The world of AI and technology is starting to advance rapidly, and I wanted to learn more about how to harness its power in order to create something. So the first step in Nexicast is the user input. It has a prompt asking for a short description of what you want the video to be about. The example, we're doing history of electric guitars. After the input is pressed, then it generates a folder to hold all the content that'll be generated. It also takes the description and holds it as a variable that'll be used later. The next step, I'm using Google Drive's API. I have over 200 songs saved on my Google Drive. It grabs royalty-free music and brings it down locally. I wanted to ensure that I had a plethora of music so that way all the videos would be unique and I didn't have elements that were being repeated from video to video. After that, it generates a script using OpenAI's API. It says, create a quick introduction saying, welcome to Nexicast, quickly discussing the topic. That's where the variable from earlier goes, and quickly mention that it's AI generated. YouTube has a new policy this year stating that any AI generated content will be removed unless there's a disclaimer. So I wanted to ensure that every video has a disclaimer in it. It generates all of the script in paragraphs, which is used programmatically to pull everything together as the process goes on. The next step, again, using OpenAI, it creates images through DALL-E. So each of the paragraphs from the script has its own prompt, which generates its own image. After the images have been completed and successfully downloaded, then I'm using 11 Labs API. This one has the talk-to-speech technology. It sounds more human-like than some of the previous ones we've seen. So after it generates a voiceover for every paragraph, which also has a matching image for every paragraph, it starts the compilation process. So each segment is generated as like its own mini story. Once all the segments have been completed, then it does a full concatenation of the video, taking all of the segments, putting them together into the final video, while also overlaying the royalty-free music at a 10% volume. So that way it doesn't overpower the voiceover, but it still gives it some extra depth to it. I do have just a quick clip showing off the history of electric guitar, just so you can kind of get an idea of what it looks like.
In order to understand the history of electric guitars, we need to go back to the early 20th century. It was a time of innovation and experimentation in the world of music. The concept of amplifying musical instruments was already well established with the invention of the telephone. In order to understand the
So one of the challenges that I ran into while developing Nexicast was in the image fetcher class. It's designed to fetch the image. So it goes to DALL-E, grabs the image, downloads it, brings it locally, so that way we have it for the compilation process. However, it kept failing repeatedly. The first thing I did is I went and read OpenAPI's their documentation, and I tried to duplicate it exactly how it was line by line, but it was done in Python. I tried to convert it over to C#, but I couldn't quite get it to work right. So I did what any programmer would do. I went to Google and searched Reddit, Stack Overflow, GitHub, until I finally learned about base64 encoding. The way base64 encoding works is it takes your file and it converts it into a long string of letters, numbers, and characters. So then I was able to pass that string back down locally, decode it, and then I was able to successfully get my file. Not only did it solve the issue I had in Nexicast, it's been a nice little tool to add to my tool belt, and I'm actually utilizing it in another application I'm currently developing. If you have any questions, thoughts, or you'd like to discuss any aspects of Nexicast, I do have my contact information up on the screen. The bottom link is the YouTube channel where you could go and watch the generated videos in their entirety if you'd like to choose so. I do look forward to any potential collaborations or discussions that might arise from today's session. And I do want to say thank you all for your time and attention today. It's been my privilege to share my journey of Nexicast with you.
All right, Brian, well done. And our last presenter tonight, before we go into our breakout rooms, is Eileen Bonskowski. And before I hand it over to Eileen, I'll just remind everyone, after this is over, please don't head out. We'd love to have you join our presenters in their breakout rooms and learn more from them and ask them a few questions. I'll tell you about how that'll work after Eileen's presentation. So Eileen, whenever you're ready, take it away.
Alrighty. So sorry. All right. Hi, Brian. Thank you so much, everyone. As you mentioned, my name is Eileen Bonskowski. I'm really excited to share my project with you all this evening. Here's a little outline of what I'd like to cover with you tonight, and I'm just going to jump right in. So I was born and raised here in Louisville, but did spend a lot of my young adult life traveling and working across the United States and abroad, primarily in the food service and hospitality industry. Although I'm still somewhat of an adventurer, I have planted roots here in Kentucky to raise my family. So for now, I'm actively seeking both hybrid and remote roles based in Louisville. In addition to completing the CodeU pathway in data analytics, I'm also a full-time student at Indiana University Southeast. I'm majoring in data science, minoring in math, and set to receive my Bachelor of Science degree next year. I chose to participate in CodeU and to transition into the tech industry because I really just craved more of a challenge, both intellectually and creatively, in my day-to-day work life. And I found that the most fulfilling thing for me is to learn as much as possible about something in order to answer a question or solve a problem. And then even more importantly, take those answers and those solutions and convey them to others in an easy to comprehend way, which is definitely what I strove to do in this capstone project. So I chose the world of sports analytics for its abundance of easy to access, clean, usable data. And hockey was a natural choice because it is a sport that I play and love to watch. And although having all that data was great, it also provided the biggest challenge that I faced in the completion of this capstone, which was actually just figuring out what questions I needed to ask. finding the questions that were not too broad in scope and that were manageable given the project and time constraints that I had. For example, the way that I started the process was with the question, what's the influence of the bottom 6 players on a hockey team's success? And the question that I used for this project was, what was the impact of the HBK line, which is a set of 3 third line players, on the Pittsburgh Penguins Stanley Cup success in the years 2016 and 2017, which is a very specific question. But even given such a narrow question, it provided ample opportunities for analysis, exploration, and visualization. And for me, visualizations were a key component of this project. I did use the Seaborn and Matplotlib libraries to generate them right in my Jupyter notebooks. For the data, I used multiple sources from Kaggle and hockeyreference.com. I constructed a local database using SQLite 3 and really leaned on the Python Pandas library for all of my data manipulation and analysis. You'll see an example of code. That's the code that I used to construct the database for the project. And I chose to use SQL because I really just fell in love with it. CodeU is my introduction to structured query language, and I'm really fond of how simple and streamlined it is. And I felt that if I utilized it in my capstone, it would give me that much more of an opportunity to learn more about it and become more practiced in it. So throughout the notebook, in order to construct the data frames that I used SQL queries in order to grab information that I needed across a variety of different tables. I'd also like to share just a few code examples. I don't have a lot of time to go into them, but I will say the biggest part of my process was kind of sorting, organizing, and aggregating the data that I had. For example, I needed to take the game plays and group them into games, into rounds for the teams, and then as you'll see on the screen now, even into good plays and bad plays, what would be considered positive or negative, and making sure that it's being used with the right players. I had to do all of that before I could even begin my visualizations, but these visuals were very important to me. Crafting and compelling visualizations, I felt was what I was most passionate about in this project. Maybe because as a newcomer to the world of sports analytics, I felt firsthand how intimidating it can be if you haven't heard of these metrics before, maybe don't know anything about them. So I wanted to learn and understand them and then distill that knowledge that I gained into images that were easily accessible to anyone, regardless of your prior knowledge of sports or hockey. So with my remaining time, I just want to give some examples of the visuals that I did create. This first one was a lot of fun. I utilized the access to XY coordinates for every single play that's given. And because there are so many, I did choose to focus on the primary players that I was looking at. I grouped into good and bad plays. And by the playoff years, here's a couple examples, although there are many more if you check out my notebook. And then, as you'll see, I used statistics to find other ways of looking at player metrics, like calculating face-off differentials, calculating penalty differentials. And I tried to really keep my graphs simple and streamlined while also giving tangible, concrete information in the legends, so they get sort of the best of both worlds. As you'll see, I looked at correlations between different advanced metrics, and then most of this is just player comparison with one another and the team as a whole, which is this last one that you'll see here, taking a look at something such as percent of goals scored versus goals scored for the whole team. So that about wraps it up here. I really encourage you to check out the full project on my GitHub. It is quite extensive. And if you're into hockey or not, there is a data dictionary for you if you want to learn a little bit more. So thank you so much again for listening to this presentation and for coming to Demo Day and supporting CodeU. It's been such a great program for me. I look forward to seeing some of you in my breakout rooms, and please feel free to reach out if you have any questions concerning my project or myself. Thank you.
All right. So it's a little difficult to give a round of applause in a virtual setting like these, but at this moment, I wanted to thank all of our presenters for all their work completing their projects, preparing for the presentations coming tonight, and just doing an excellent job on projects that you should be proud of.